Welcome back, everyone, to the English Prep Podcast.
Great to be here.
Today, we're diving into something absolutely key for exams like IELTS, TOEFL, and PTE. We're talking about listening comprehension.
It's often a big hurdle, isn't it? But the good news is it's a skill you can definitely improve.
Absolutely. And getting those skills sharp can make a huge difference, pushing you towards that Band 7 plus in IELTS, or maybe over 100 in TOEFL, or those top PTE scores.
It really can be the deciding factor sometimes. These aren't just simple listening tasks. They test a lot more.
And that's what we want to unpack today. You can make real progress, even practicing from home.
That's right. It's about smart, consistent effort.
So let's get into the practical stuff.
Yeah.
The techniques, understanding what each test really wants, and those daily habits that build up your skills.
Okay, first up, understanding the tests themselves. They aren't all the same in how they approach listening.
Right, like IELTS has those 4 sections. Conversations, then more academic stuff.
Exactly, it builds up. TOEFL, on the other hand, often throws longer academic lectures or classroom discussions at you right away. More detailed, often.
And PTE is different again, isn't it? With summarizing and fill in the blanks.
Yeah, very task-focused. Summarizing spoken text, multiple choice where you might hear the answer before the question finishes, filling gaps. It demands quick processing.
So the key takeaway here is it's not just about hearing, it's about analyzing, predicting, remembering, all pretty quickly.
Precisely. You've got to be an active listener, not just passive. Understanding that is step 1 for preparing properly.
Okay, so if we know what they're testing, how do we build those skills? You mentioned it's like a muscle.
It really is. You wouldn't expect to run a marathon without training, right? Same idea. Consistent training strengthens your listening muscle.
Makes sense. So what does that training look like day to day? What practical things can people listening actually do?
Well, integrating English audio and video is a great start. Think about watching English TV shows or news.
Okay, but maybe not just anything.
Right, be a bit strategic. TED Talks are fantastic, different topics, accents, styles. BBC News gives you that more formal British English.
And for the academic side, like for TOEFL or later IELTS parts?
Definitely look for academic lectures. YouTube has tons on science, history, education, things relevant to the tests.
And audio only, like podcasts.
Podcasts and audiobooks are brilliant, especially for topics common in exams, science, tech, education, social issues. It trains your ear without any visual help.
And consistency is key, you said.
Absolutely. Even just say 20 minutes of focused listening each day, it adds up incredibly quickly.
Okay, you highlighted focus there. A lot of learners have English radio or music on in the background. Does that help much for these exams?
That's what we'd call passive listening. Like, it's not bad. It helps with rhythm and sound familiarity.
But it's not the same as exam practice.
Not really, because you're probably not actively processing the information, are you? You're not trying to remember details or understand the structure like you have to in the test.
So what makes listening focused? What are the actual actions involved?
Focused listening is active. It means, for example, trying to take notes while you listen, just like in the test.
Okay.
Maybe pausing now and then. Ask yourself, what did they just say? What might come next?
Predicting.
Prediction again.
Yeah, and even just repeating key points out loud or quickly summarizing a section in writing, it forces your brain to engage, organize, and retain. That's vital under pressure.
Right. Training your brain to work with the audio, not just hear it. Got it. What about accents? That trips up a lot of people. IELTS is famous for variety.
Oh, absolutely. Hearing an accent you're totally unfamiliar with mid-exam, that can be really unsettling.
And IELTS uses British, Australian, New Zealand, North American. Quite a mix.
It does. And TOEFL might have various North American accents, PTE too.
Yeah.
So the answer is exposure. You have to deliberately listen to different accents.
So how do you do that? If I want to get better at understanding, say, Australian English, you could listen to ABC Radio Australia online, or find Australian YouTubers talking about, well, whatever interests you that aligns with exam topics.
Okay, and for British?
BBC Radio is a goldmine. So many different programs and accents. The Guardian podcasts are great, too.
And American.
NPR is fantastic for variety. And TED Talks, while often North American, feature speakers from all over, actually.
So the goal is just more variety in your listening diet.
Exactly. Train your ear. It builds confidence like nothing else when you encounter those accents on test day.
Makes sense. Now, let's circle back to that predictive listening idea. You mentioned it briefly. How do we actually develop that skill?
It's about being an active participant, not just a receiver. You use clues, what's already been said, the question you read beforehand to make educated guesses about what's coming.
And the benefit in the test.
Huge. It keeps you engaged, focused. Sometimes you'll literally anticipate the answer just before it's said. That feels great, reduces stress,
Yeah, I can see that. So how do we practice doing that? Is there a technique?
Definitely. Before the audio starts, quickly scan the questions for that section. Ask yourself, what kind of information am I listening for? A name, a place, a number, a reason, an opinion.
Okay, so you're setting your intention.
Precisely. You create a mental checklist. Then, as you listen, you're actively checking. Was my prediction right? Do I need to adjust? It turns listening into problem solving.
I like that.
Yeah.
Engaging with the questions before you even hear anything. Smart. Okay, so we're doing focused listening, we're tuning into accents, we're predicting. How should we structure the actual practice sessions? Just casually listen.
Ideally not. For best results, you want to simulate test conditions as much as possible.
Right. The pressure, the timing.
Exactly. Think about test day. You hear it once. There's a time limit. You answer as you go. Your practice should reflect that.
So what does that mean at home? Strict rules?
Pretty much. Time yourself. Use the official time limits for that section of the test you're studying for.
Okay.
And crucially, listen only once. No pausing, no rewinding. Fight that urge.
Ooh, that's tough.
It is, but essential. And try to answer the questions as you go or immediately after without reviewing the audio again. Build that stamina, that focus.
Training under pressure builds resilience for the real thing. Makes total sense. Okay, what about note-taking? Especially for IELTS and TOEFL, that seems vital.
It's absolutely critical. Good notes help you track the information, especially in longer lectures. Bad notes or no notes? Well, you're likely to miss things.
So any tips for effective note-taking while listening? It sounds hard.
Speed is key. Use abbreviations you understand, symbols. Whatever works for you to write less but capture more.
Like using BC for leads to or BC for because.
Exactly. Focus on keywords. Names, dates, numbers, main ideas, opinions, causes, results. Don't try to write full sentences.
Maybe structure them, like a mind map.
That can work really well for some talks, yeah. Shows connections. But the main thing is practice. Practice taking notes every time you do focused listening, so it becomes second nature.
Good advice. Symbols and keywords. Got it. Now, sometimes when listening, you hear words like however or firstly. They seem important.
They are. Those are signal words or discourse markers. They're like signposts from the speaker.
Signposts? How so?
They tell you what kind of information is probably coming next or how it relates to what was just said.
Can you give some examples? What should we listen out for?
Sure. Things like firstly, secondly, next, finally, obviously signal a list or sequence.
Okay, simple enough.
Then you have words like however, in contrast, on the other hand, which signal a shift, an opposing idea. Very important.
Right, signals disagreement or difference.
Exactly. And words like therefore, as a result, consequently point to, well, a result or conclusion. Recognizing these helps you follow the speaker's logic and organize your notes.
That's super helpful. It's like getting a map of the conversation as it happens. Okay, what about managing time during the actual test?
Crucial, especially in tests like IELTS, where you get that little bit of time beforehand to look at the questions.
Use that time wisely, I guess.
Absolutely. Skim the questions for the upcoming section. Underline the keywords. What specifically are they asking for? What should you be listening for?
So you're primed and ready.
Exactly. And during the listening itself, if you miss an answer, don't panic and don't dwell on it.
Easier said than done.
I know, but it's vital. If you get stuck on question 5, you might miss 6, 7, and 8 while you're still thinking about it. Just make your best guess or leave it and move on. Keep pace with the audio.
Don't let one missed point cost you several more. Good strategy. Okay, finally, the nerves.
Yeah.
Exam anxiety is real. How does it affect listening, and how can we stay calm?
Anxiety is a focus killer. It can make your mind go blank, make you mishear things.
So what helps? Deep breaths.
Deep breathing genuinely helps. Before you start, even during, if you feel overwhelmed, take a few slow, deep breaths. And remind yourself, missing one answer isn't the end of the world. It probably won't sink your score.
Perspective.
Exactly. But honestly, the biggest factor in feeling calm and confident is preparation.
Knowing you've done the work.
Precisely. The more you practice, especially under simulated test conditions, the more familiar and less intimidating it all feels. Confidence comes from competence and preparation.
That's a great point. So wrapping this up, it sounds like boosting your listening score isn't just about, hearing more English.
Not at all. It's about strategy, active engagement, understanding the test demands, focused practice with the right techniques.
Building familiarity with accents, managing time, and keeping those nerves in check.
You got it. By putting these strategies into practice daily, you're not just improving general listening, you're building the specific skills needed to succeed on these particular exams.
Well said. It really does sound achievable with the right approach and consistent effort. So for all of you listening today, think about this. Which one of these techniques we discussed feels like it might be the most helpful for your learning style right now? Definitely something to ponder as you move forward with your English prep.